All right, guys. I just want to give you a little kind of final synopsis of some glacier stuff as we finish up today. Today is Friday. Anyway, this is a diagram of a glacier that we've been talking about. So you can see the accumulation zone, which is up here, and the ablation zone. And you should have an understanding of what these two terms mean. Next week, probably Tuesday, I'm going to give you a quiz, and these are definitely words that you're going to see: accumulation versus ablation. So accumulation is referring to snowfall that then obviously packs down into ice and over time turns into a glacier, and that takes a long time. And then ablation, referring to the idea of melting, so we're losing all that ice at the bottom of the glacier. So just know those two terms, number one. And there are scientists that work for what's called the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, in different regions of the country. And one such region, one such program is called the Benchmark Glacier Program. So if you look at the screen here, these are the benchmark glaciers. And benchmark means that they've collected data in the past to look at the thickness of each of these glaciers. So up in Alaska and down into the northern part of the United States and Canada, and what's called the South Cascade Glacier, which is in the Cascade Mountains, all the way up into Alaska, the Wolverine and Golcana glaciers. These are all glaciers that they're monitoring. And they measured the thickness back in the 60s, and they've been measuring it ever since. And so they've been collecting data on how thick these glaciers are. It's what's called a mass balance measurement. And that is basically a comparison of accumulation versus ablation. So if you have more accumulation, then obviously the glacier is going to get thicker and it's going to move downhill. If you have more ablation, then it's going to melt and it's going to back up the hill. Now, obviously, you can probably make some guesses as to what's been happening over the last 40 years since they've been collecting data, actually longer than that now. And I wanted to show you guys one of the labs that you were actually going to do. So if I scroll up here, here's all the glaciers. So the Golcana Glacier, the Wolverine Glacier, and the South Cascade Glacier. And these glaciers have been monitored, like I said, from the 60s. Now here is all of the data for these glaciers. Now, if you guys were actually in class, we would make a lab out of this, and you would be plotting all of these lovely points on a graph. Okay, that's a lot of data to plot. So be thankful you're at home and you don't actually have to make any graph. And the graph would have looked something like this. So as you can see, the orange here is the Wolverine Glacier. Let me get my pointer back. Hold on one second. And that glacier, the orange one, is obviously the Wolverine Glacier, and it's going down, down, down very slowly. Okay, and then the blue glacier, that's the Golcana Glacier up in Alaska, and again, it's dropping. And then you can see here the gray one. That gray one is the South Cascade Glacier, and that one has dropped the most. And you could make some guesses as to why that might be. Now, just going back to here. So these are the questions that you would have to answer. And for your homework over the weekend, you're not actually doing a lab, but you are answering these questions. So I've posted an assignment. It's called Glacier or Benchmark Glaciers. And what you're going to do is submit all of your answers to all of these questions to send me a Google Doc with all of the answers to those questions. Okay, so if you have any trouble with anything, let me know. I think most of these are pretty straightforward. You're going to have to refer to the graph that's in this video that I showed you, and I'll share that as well with you online. But again, that's your task, to just look at the trend that's been happening. And obviously, if you think about that, if the trend is that the glaciers are decreasing in size, where's all that water going? And that's what the previous video was talking about as well. Now, what does this possibly due to? Okay, so that's your task, is to complete those questions. And hopefully that kind of finalizes all of our stuff about glaciers. And again, like I said, if you have any questions about anything, just let me know. All right, guys, have a lovely weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday.